Yair, thank you. So what comes next for this deal and the ongoing negotiations? Let's turn now to Michael Pragent, Senior Middle East and Counterterrorism Analyst with the Hudson Institute, and also Brooke Goldstein, Human Rights Attorney and founder and executive director of the Lawfare Project, which works to protect the rights of Jewish people around the world. Thank you both for being here. Clearly a historic day, but only phase one of this deal has been fully agreed upon at this point. Again, hostages will slowly be released beginning this Sunday. But Michael, it's not clear how many of those hostages are already dead.
Yeah, that's true. Well, thanks for having me. As you look through the deal, you look at the release of these hostages, and it's 3 on day 1. Then it's 4 on day 7, or 7 days later, it's 4. And for each hostage released, the Palestinians in Gaza get back somebody that was actually put in prison for committing a terrorist act or an act of violence. So it's very concerning to me that each phase is 42 days long, and it's almost built to fail at some point. And even the families of these hostages are voicing concern. You know, they've been here before. They wait to see who's going to be released, and they continue to be disappointed. We don't know how many are alive. There are 7 American Israeli hostages. We believe 4 have been killed. And in your report, you just said that 2 are going to be released. I think it's very important to see something I'll be looking for, to see who Hamas releases in this first wave, and if they actually look at President Trump's threat as a legitimate one.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. Brooke, I want to turn to you. How much can Hamas be trusted to stick with this deal? And if an issue does pop up, how will it be resolved?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And I'm glad you raised that issue, because really there are no deals with terrorist groups. And I think that history has shown us that. And Hamas routinely is the one who breaks the ceasefire agreement. So there is no deal until we have a deal. And while it's a day to celebrate and to anticipate, because what this deal in principle shows is that Israel, the Jewish state, will do almost anything to get back its citizens, to get back the hostages, because human life is the highest value of the Jewish state, as opposed to the values of the enemies that it's fighting, that uses its own civilians and children as human shields. And to what Biden said in terms of this war being over, the war is not over. And, you know, albeit the fact that one of the main goals was to destroy Hamas, the ideology of theologically motivated radicalism, of Islamism, has not been defeated. And that is the problem here, because even once every single Hamas terrorist has been eliminated, we have 5, 6, 7, 8-year-olds who have been taught in their schools and their textbooks and by their religious leaders and their politicians and often their own families that the greatest thing that they should aspire to is a violent jihad and the destruction of the Jewish state. And that is the issue. And we look to the future. The only way to ensure lasting peace is to change the culture of death, to change the educational system there. And that has to come from within the Gazan community. And we can also see what's happening, by the way, in the Palestinian Authority-run areas of Judea, Samaria, or the West Bank. The same type of incitement is happening. So I think strategically, what Israel is going to be able to accomplish with this deal is to calm the fighting, to accomplish the #1 goal, which is to get the hostages back, and also to be able to strategically focus on the threat in the West Bank, and use this period to build alliances, to wait until Trump comes into power, so that we can really strategically figure out how to move forward in Gaza, what the future in Gaza really looks like there.
Michael, I want to dig in with you a little deeper onto what Brooke was talking about there. You know, Israel says there are still more details to iron out. That's what's going to happen in these first 6 weeks. But let's be realistic at just how difficult a bridge this is to cross, because if the objective of the second phase is to withdraw Israeli troops from Gaza, yet you have the Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, vowing to not stop until they've eradicated Hamas, And as Brooke is saying, if that Hamas, thinking is so deeply ingrained in these people, do you think that these parties, both of these parties, will actually be able to negotiate and close this deal in good faith in some way?
Well, I'm happy to be wrong, but I'm very skeptical. I'm happy to be wrong. So there are three red lines. The United States and Benjamin Netanyahu believe that Israel should control the Philadelphia corridor. That is the border area where, if that was secured by the Israelis, October 7th wouldn't have happened. That's how they were able to get 500 Hamas fighters out of Gaza through the Rafah crossing and to be trained in Iran to conduct the attack on October 7th. The second part of that is that Hamas can have no role in the future in Gaza's governance. The third is UNRWA. And you're hearing very positive language from the incoming Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, from the National Security Advisor, from the Secretary of Defense, and from others inside of the Trump administration that will have those conditions put in place. This could all fall apart next week. But the most important thing is to get those hostages out and not allow Hamas to reconstitute through Qatari money and Qatari funding of this terrorist organization and conduct another future October 7th.
Brooke, Iran-backed groups like Hamas and Hezbollah have been seriously weakened over these past 15 months, Iran as well. But there is concern. You heard Yair Pinto say this. There's concern that they'll take advantage of this ceasefire to regroup and then come back stronger in the coming weeks. What do you say to that?
Well, obviously, that's always been the concern. And even though there's a deal, it's not like Hamas has laid down their arms and declared that they're no longer jihadis and no longer seeking the total annihilation and destruction of the West and Israel. This is who they are. But I think the most important thing is the recognition by us in the West that the status quo cannot remain. We cannot continue to allow UNRWA, the United Nations Relief Works Agency, to operate in Gaza. UNRWA is basically an arm of Hamas. We cannot allow Gaza to become a terrorist state again. Frankly, the Israeli population will not go for that. It would be political suicide for Netanyahu. So nobody's envisioning that we're going back and making the same mistakes again and again. We're in now the post-October 7th world. We have a different mentality. We have woken up again to what the real threat of theologically motivated terrorism is. And while we are all celebrating this deal, and I want to emphasize that the return of the hostages is the most amazing thing, and it is a miracle. In fact, by the way, the portion of the Bible that the Jewish people read this week, remarkably, is Exodus, is the return and the listing of the names of the people who will return from slavery in Egypt and be redeemed into freedom. So the Jewish people, we've been here before, we've been attacked, we've had genocide after genocide against us. Israel is not going anywhere. And I have full faith and confidence in both the Trump administration and the Netanyahu government that whatever deals are being made, and we don't even know the half of it, that they're going to ensure the safety and security of Israeli civilians and that Gaza does not become rebuilt into a terror state.
Well, this is a story that we will stay on top of. Thank you for the great context, you both, Brooke Goldstein and Michael Pragent. Thank you both tonight.